Hey guys, and welcome to 2.8. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the distance and midpoint formulas, and we're also going to talk about circles. Okay, when it comes to uh, circles, my formula for that, my graphing formula, is x minus h all squared, um, and y minus k all squared equals r squared. Okay, and then the center is going to be hk. Notice in the formula it says minus h minus k, but the center is going to be positive h positive k. And then in my formula it says r squared equals r squared, and then my radius is just r. So whatever is in the formula, I'm going to have to take the square root to get the radius, and whatever the radius is, I'm going to have to square it to get it back into the formula. All right, and then you have the distance formula. The distance is the square root of the x of 2 minus x of 1 all squared, plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all squared. All right, so if you know anything about the Pythagorean theorem, this really comes from that. Okay, um, and then midpoint is the average of x's, comma, the average of y's. All right, so let's take a look at this. We're not going to overcomplicate this really at all. All right, d equals, you have x1, y1, x2, y2. Now, it doesn't really matter which order you do this in because your squares are going to take care of your signs. All right, so this is going to be, let's see, this is going to be 1 minus 8 squared plus 2 minus 9 squared square root. Okay, so 1 minus 8 is going to be negative 7, and that's going to be, so it's going to be 49. And then 2 minus 7 is also negative, 2 minus 9 is also negative 7, so it's also going to be 49, so you got 49 square root. All right, and so two things. Pearson may ask you to, this is going to be the square root of 98. Pearson may ask you to do one of two things with this. It could ask you to simplify this radical, which you can do, and I'll show you to you in just a second. Or it may ask you to give you a decimal. It may ask for both. All right, so whatever Pearson asks for, you give it to Pearson, but whatever Pearson asks for, you give it. But if you want to give a decimal version, you just plug this into your calculator and then cut it off and round based on the number of decimals they ask you to give. But if you want to simplify, here's what we're going to do. So we already know that 49 is a perfect square. It's a 7 squared, okay? And we have it twice. So I can rewrite this as square root of 49 times 2. And then I can write that as square root of 49 times the square root of 2. So I can separate that radical, right? And then I know what the square root of 49 is. That's going to be 7 times radical 2. And so square root of 98 and 7 radical 2 is the same answer, right? But one looks better, right? It's kind of like reducing a fraction, and that's how you reduce a radical. Okay, number 2, same process. All right, so we got d equals, that's going to be negative 2 minus 4 squared plus, that's going to be negative 4 um, minus negative 3 squared. Okay, and so that's going to be negative 2 minus 4, that's going to be negative 6, it's going to be 36 plus, and that's going to be two negatives make a positive, so I'm going to change those. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1, so it's going to just be 1. All right, so it's going to be the square root of 37. All right, and I can't simplify that. Okay, so that's just going to be square root of 37. Again, if Pearson asks for a decimal, give it a decimal. Now, midpoints. On midpoints, you're going to take the x's and say negative 1 or negative 7 plus negative 3 over 2. And then you're going to say that's your x term, and then your y's are going to be negative 4 plus negative 1 over 2. And then you're going to simplify. Negative 7 plus negative 3 is going to be negative 10 over 2. Negative 4 plus negative 1 is going to be negative 5 over 2. And that's going to give you a simplified answer of negative 5, comma, negative 5 over 2. All right, you could write that as a decimal if you wanted to, like negative 2.5, but this is it. Okay, easy peasy. Here you have 10 plus negative 2 over 2. And then here you have 7 squared root of 5 plus 5 squared root of 5. And whether you're adding or subtracting, as long as the radicals are the same, in this case, I have radical 5 and radical 5, I can do this, no problem. This one's going to be 8 over 2. This one's going to be, you're just going to, once the denominators are the same, or it's like when you're adding fractions, you want the denominator to be the same, and then you add the numerators. Here, I want the radical to be the same, and then I'm going to add what's out front. So the radical 5 is going to stay put. It's going to be 12 radical 5 over 2. All right, and then this is going to reduce. 8 over 2 is 4, and then 12 over 2 is 6, and that's going to be radical 5. All right, now it comes to circles. Remember that my formula is x minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared, and then r squared. And so when it says, yeah, here's your center, here's your radius, you just plug those in and adjust the formula accordingly. Well, when the center is 0, 0, or the origin, rather, you're literally just going to say x squared plus y squared. That's all there is to it. Now, if you need to see that, I can plug that in. It's going to be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared. And then it says radius is 2. So it's going to be 2 squared. That's simply going to be x squared plus y squared equals 4. Okay, uh, that's how you do that. Number 6, same thing, but this time we're not dealing with 0, 0. So this is going to be x minus 5 all squared plus y minus -6 all squared equals 3 squared. Now, I included the minus negative because I want to make sure that you understand how this impacts your signs. Your original formula is minus k or minus h. Your original formula is minus h minus k. So if I'm plugging in a negative number, that's going to turn into a positive. And so it'd be like x plus h or x plus k, something like that. So here, I'm going to clean this up. So you got x minus 5 all squared plus y plus 6 all squared. And then 3 squared is 9. And so I would highly encourage you to take a step, plug everything in, and then clean everything up. All right, number 7, I included this one because the radius looks a little different. So how does that affect things? Well, this is going to be x minus -3. Again, I'm going to take a step, plug everything in. Plus y minus 1 all squared equals radical 3, or square root of 3 all squared. Well, I'm going to clean this up. That's going to be x plus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals, and then you have the cube, or sorry, the square root squared. When you square a square root, it gets rid of the square root, and I'm left with what's inside. So when you see something like this, you really just want the insides and pull it out. Okay, so there's your answer there. Now, when you have a problem like number 8, um, it's already giving you the formula. It's already giving you the equation of the circle. And so now it's asking you for a couple things. It could ask you for center and radius. And if they do that, the center is going to be hk. You remember your sign issues. The original is x minus h and y minus k. So this is going to be -4, +1 when I pull it out. And then my radius is going to be the square root of whatever this is on the right side. If it's perfect square, that's great. In this case, it is, so it's going to be 6. If it's not, you want to give the radical or the simplified radical as your radius. Here, it may also ask you for the domain and range. Okay, well, it's whatever's inside the circle is what we're talking about. Again, your domain is all the x's included in your graph, and then your range is all your y's included in your graph. Okay, so remember, your center is at -4, 1, and your radius is 6 points in every direction. So think of it this way: you got -4. I want to know what x is, and because this is a circle, everything included. -4 plus 6 on the right, and x -4 minus 6 on the left. And so that's going to give you -10. X less than or equal to that's going to be 2. And so that's going to be your domain. -10, comma 2, bracket on both sides. You can do the same thing with your range. You just use y, right? So here you have 1 minus 6 and 1 plus 6. So that's going to be 7 and -5. And so you get -5, comma 7, bracket on both sides. But you could use a graph if you wanted to, or you could just use this little algebraic trick right here. This is what it's going to be. So you're setting a radius and your domain and range. There you go. Now, a lot of times when you get to these circle equations, remember that your basic formula is going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, and that's going to be equals r squared. Well, obviously on number 9, this looks nothing like that, but we need to make it look like that. So we can start off by saying, let's see, it's going to be x squared plus 4x plus y squared plus 4y. And I'm going to move that 7 to the other side, so it's going to be -7. Well, that's closer, but that still doesn't help. What we're actually going to need to do here is we're going to need to complete the square. We're going to go through this process to complete the square for both the x's and the y's. So what I've done here is I've grouped the x's and I've grouped the y's, and that should be your first step in this stuff. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open up parentheses, or rather, x squared plus 4x plus squared. I'm going to give some space, right? And then let's take a look. I'm going to take that middle term. For the x's, it's 4. 4, I'm going to divide by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then I'm going to square my answer. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Because whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side, keeps it balanced. All right. The middle term for y is the same thing, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take half, square it, you get +4 +4. All right, so now let's rewrite this. That's going to be x squared plus 4x plus 4 plus y squared plus 4y plus 4 equals, that's going to be 8 minus 7, it's going to be 1. All right, because I did this, this now factors nicely. Okay. And you can see that everything's pretty much the same. So it's going to be x plus plus All right, what times what is 4 and adds to 4 in the middle? Well, you don't even have to go that far because because you completed the square, what was half of your middle term? 2. That's really all you have to do. And so this is going to be y plus 2, which is, I can rewrite this as x plus 2 all squared, y plus 2 all squared equals 1. And then once I have the actual equation, I can find the center and the radius. So the center is going to be -2, -2. Remember your sign issue. I think your radius is simply 1. All right, remember, it's the square root. And the square is the square root of r squared. And the square root of r squared in this case is the square root of 1. And that's always 1. Oh, there's that. So if they give you something that looks like this, you know how to do it. Now, on number 10, this is not as bad as it sounds. You're just going to take everything that we've used in this lesson and bring it into one problem. As it says in the graph on the right, a line segment to the center of a circle intersects the circle at -4, 4. So picture this. You have a circle with a diameter. The diameter is this line that goes through the circle, but it goes through the center of the circle and it touches each side. All right. 4, 4, and 8, 14 are the points that define that diameter. So there's not a graph here, but you can picture that. On 4, 4 is one side of the diameter, 8, 14 is the other side of the diameter. So I need two things. I need to find the distance between those 2 points to find my diameter. And once you find your diameter, your radius is half of that. Okay. And then I need to find the midpoint between those 2 points because that's the center. And if you're keeping up, then I would have the center and I would have the radius, and then I could build my circle. All right. So I'm going to do the distance first. So that's going to be 4 minus 8 squared plus, that's going to be 4 minus 14 squared. Okay. And that's going to be 4 minus 8 is going to be -4, so it's going to be 16 plus 4 minus 14 is -10, so it's going to be 100. Okay, so it's going to be 116, square root of 116. Okay. Um, that's the that's the diameter. Okay, so let me see if I can reduce this. No 4 will go into it. So if you don't, the idea here is if you don't, you want to find the biggest perfect square that goes into this. If you don't know off the top of your head, you can just start reducing perfect squares that you know go into it. So I know 4 is a perfect square. Let's do this. We got 4 times 29. Well, 29 is a prime number, so it looks like I got off everything I needed. I separated this just how I wanted to. And so I can separate this, and that's going to be square root of 4. It's going to be square root of 4 times square root of 29. And square root of 4 is 2. If the diameter is 2 square root of 29, then the radius is going to be half that. So that's just going to be simply be square root of 29. Okay, and now my midpoint, I have, it's going to be 4 plus 8 over 2, and that's going to be 4 plus 14 over 2. All right, so that's going to be 12 over 2, and that's going to be 18 over 2. Okay, so that's going to give me 6 comma 9. So there's my midpoint, which is my center. So I have my radius, I have my center. Now I can write my equation. This is going to be, um, let's see, that's going to be x minus 6 squared plus y minus 9 squared. And then remember that for my equation, this is r squared on the end. And so I square my radius, and it's simply just going to be 29. Okay, so I've got my radius, I got my center, and then I got my equation. So picture or not, you're still able to find this. If you can just use your imagination a little bit, you can figure this out, no problem. All right, guys, that's 2.8. Hope you got something out of that. If you have any questions, please reach out, and I'll see you in the next lesson.